friends, to another edition of Wampa Radio. This is episode number 25. The gang is all here, Doa. We missed you. We definitely, I know I did, because I had to babysit R5D4 over there, and oh boy, those motivators were not, they were blowing like the wind.
Well, I missed me too, so I'm glad to be back with the two of you doing this podcast, talking about Star Wars Unlimited, and really digging into the headlines, the strategies, and the discussion points you want to hear about in the world of Star Wars card gaming. Mostly Star Wars Unlimited, but we talk about other games once in a while too. It happens.
Yeah, and I'm really excited because we finally got some gameplay. Not that there's not gameplay available, and not that we haven't had the chance to play the game ourselves at various points, but we got some developer gameplay on the live stream today, and it was kind of cool to see them just going back and forth. And that brings us to today's topic, which is deck construction, because they took the starter decks and made some modifications. And so we thought, hey, we should talk about some of those things that players will be deciding for themselves when you start making your deck. Art types, aspect combinations, what you include or what you don't include, et cetera, et cetera. But before we get into all of that, of course, we have the Wampa Cave Poll of the Week.
So the Wampa Cave Poll this week, available every Sunday-ish. I try my best. Yeah, it is available on Twitter at Wampa Radio. You can give let your voice be heard. This week's cave poll was very simple. This was your idea, Doa. Very, very. I may have paraphrased, but
You changed it a little bit.
Yeah. Who do you roll with?
A little bit.
Who do you roll with? Very simple. Who do you roll with? You've got the Rebel Alliance, the Empire, the Shady Underworld. Now that can be the Outer Rim territories. That could be the Black Sun
I disagree.
Syndicate. Okay.
The Outer Rim is not the Underworld. The Outer Rim is just it's just the less populated areas of the galaxy. Because the fourth thing that I put down for this, which you changed, you put don't want any trouble, but I put fringe slash Outer Rim, because I see those as two different things. Things might be a little bit rougher on the Outer Rim, but they're not the Underworld. That's very insulting to all the fine, upstanding people of Tatooine.
The Underworld will often, I think, prey on the Outer Rim because there's less enforcement out there, but I don't think that they're the same thing. I'm with you, Doa, because
I'm sorry,
I would point to, you're a moisture farmer on Tatooine, but that doesn't mean that you're the Shady Underworld. Now, granted, that might fall under don't want any trouble or whatever, so I'll give Flake credit there. But.
Well, that's part of it. It's like
Outer Rim, though.
I had to give some of it just being like for those out there who are just farming, really a man of your talents, like that's kind of it's a peaceful life. Like some of them just don't want any trouble, and I couldn't fit. All I wanted to fit in there was these aren't the droids you're looking for, but there wasn't enough. There's only 25 characters you can fit in there, so don't want any trouble was kind of it. I couldn't fit farming a man of your talents ? I couldn't fit any iconic line, so we put in don't want any trouble. And yeah, I'm curious what you both selected, and we'll go with we'll start with you, Charmer. What was your affiliation of choice?
So given this 4 and the way it was worded, I went with don't want any trouble, because exactly what you said. It's the farming, really a man of your talents. If I have a choice, right, I would prefer to just be the hermit in the Star Wars universe. I dig old Ben, right? Just hanging out in a cave by himself. He's like, you know what? I did all the exciting stuff. I want to retire, right? I appreciate what Mr. Urso tried to do. There's a bunch of folks that, they did the adventure thing and then they moved on, and I'm just hitting that point in my life, but I identify more with that. Now, that being said, I would roll with the Rebel Alliance if called to, right? But if I have a choice, I don't want to do anything. Like, I have a bad motivator unit, man. You're asking a lot from me.
So when Jyn Erso...
If I have a choice, I don't want to do anything.
When Jyn Erso was put in that bunker and said, wait here, and then Saw Gerrera goes and picks her up, if that was you, you'd be like, no, I'm good. Just close the hatch back down. Like, we're good. see you later. Like, don't need to. You're good. Not interested.
I think, it's actually funny you mentioned that. I think that's actually a good way to kind of encapsulate my feelings, right? Because Saw was very much a true revolutionary, right? And he was going to go to the fight regardless of whether the fight was coming to him. And then with the Urso family, obviously he steps away and he tries to live the peaceful life. And then obviously trouble finds him anyways. Like, that's the problem with the Star Wars universe, right? You can say, I don't want any trouble, but trouble always finds you. There's really no dodging it. But if I'm being honest about myself, like, I'd love to say, like, oh yeah, of course I'm going to fight for what's right and I'm going to do the right thing. But like, I know myself. The reality is, like, I will absolutely fight if it's at my doorstep, but otherwise I'm a peaceful farmer, man. It's just who I am.
I don't think that Saw Gerrera was trying to live the peaceful life. If you're familiar with this character,
I'm saying Saw is not. Universe, no, sorry. If that's the way it came out, that is a misunderstanding.
Well, yeah.
Saw is taking the fight wherever it is. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You described it as he goes and finds the fight.
He's a violent extremist.
Yes.
Saw Gerrera represents kind of like the extreme end of the rebellion, where it's like, we're not really gonna be super careful about, things like, well, if civilian casualties happen, it's war, whatever, and like, he's not quite as noble, I would say, as the other rebels. He's a little bit too driven by anger and fear and aggression, I think. So he's fighting against the Empire, but he's not exactly like a good guy. He's kind of an anti-hero in my book, at least. So I feel like, yeah, he's a rebel in like kind of the roughest of terms,
He is the closest I think Star Wars will ever get to the Punisher.
That's fair. Like, he represents, like what you said, Doa. He represents the rougher. I think he represents the more necessary, the dirtier tactics, the like, anything to win the day kind of aspect of it. And you mentioned anger, fear, and aggression. You literally said the three that Yoda warned us about.
It was intentional.
You got us.
Believe it or not.
So we've got a peaceful farmer here. What have you selected?
I mean, I gotta go with Rebel Alliance, man. Like, I'm still out there telling people that like esports works and all that, despite the fact that the Empire, the big game developers, the business suits that are like, ooh, the esports buzzword. Let's make tournaments and things, and let's never ever actually like bother to learn about our communities and all that kind of stuff. I feel like I've been in the Rebel Alliance for over a decade now, trying to like make esports work the right way against the corporate overlords. So I feel like I gotta pick that, and will we ever win? Who knows? That's kind of what the Rebel Alliance is all about. Like, you fight and you don't know if you're gonna win, but you're gonna give it your best shot. So I gotta go with that,
Hey, that's a pretty good analogy, and I think that kind of fits to a degree. I also selected the Rebel Alliance, mainly because I value my life, and it'd be nice to have a ship with a shield on it. Like, that's basically it, because they're not jamming me in like a TIE Defender or something that matters. They're gonna throw me into like a cloud car and be like, hey, good luck. So at least if I go through pilot training with the Rebel Alliance, plus you're fighting against tyranny and such like that, allegedly the Empire did nothing wrong and there's all whatever, but it would be nice to be thrown into a ship that can withstand re-entry. Like, that's the kind of thing. Like, if I don't want like a random screwdriver that's stuck in orbit to go through my windshield. Like, it would not be nice to have a shield.
I feel like if you want the clean, shiny new stuff, then you go Empire, right? I mean, Rebel stuff is you kind of been fixing it, trying to keep it together. You're trying to adapt the snow speeders to work in cold climates.
Yeah.
I feel like you're taking a risk with Rebel Alliance and their cars and things. With the Empire's like, you got the shiny new thing. But
I feel like if you're blinging it though, like Shady Underworld's got to be it, right?
True, that's true. You could be like the Black Sun or something like that.
The Black Sun
I want to say
Syndicate.
Golden Sun, but that's like an old video game. So I think it's like, yeah, Black Sun is that, and they were mostly chilling on like more populated worlds. There's a lot of underworld stuff going on in Coruscant, so
it's true.
Yeah, maybe you bling that way. Yeah.
Well,
or maybe you're just a really successful farmer. Who knows?
But then you get like, that's when you get to ride on like Jabba's luxury sail barge and stuff like that. That's when you get to go to Canto Bight and throw dice for like a weekend and roll up in something better than
Don't mention Canto Bite.
Hey, it's a real place, okay? It's a real freaking place. Like, the thing about Canto Bite, if we're going to get into that, again, FFG, you have not provided us with any emergency packs. This is on you. But the thing about Canto Bite is, like, there's going to be casinos. Like, the whole concept of it, I just feel like it was like, shoehorned into the story to just give Rian Johnson an opportunity to be like, hey, I created this planet. Like, this is a planet that I created that is now part of it, and look how unique it is.
Space Vegas. Wow.
Yeah.
What type of creative genius comes up with something like that?
Like Space Vegas? Spagus?
Wow.
Las Spagus.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm not saying it's all that groundbreaking either. I selected the Rebel Alliance, like I said, because I want to fight for what's right, and my right to party as well.
There you go. You got to fight for that right.
You do. Let's get to the results here. And with 42.3%, the Rebel Alliance has taken the day. In second place, the Empire at 26.8%. The Shady Underworld, 18.3%. And all you pacifists, all I want to do is, watch my pod races.
Fun.
Yeah.
I got a feeling I'm not the only one. 90s. That was a 90s song. 2 of you got that out there.
No, I got that one. Yeah.
Okay. You're one of them.
There you go.
The other one. That's all 2.
12.7%.
That's it.
I wasn't going to say it, but I was like, yeah, the 2 people who got that were listening right now.
We're right here. That's it. Exactly. I think that song actually plays at the beginning of the Canto Bite scene in The Last Jedi. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And then it goes to Livin' La Vida Loca.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Jats version of Livin' La Vida Loca.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there we go. That is your Wampa Cave poll of the week every Sunday on Twitter at Wampa Radio. You can go ahead and cast your vote. If you have a suggestion for a poll, we take those too. Let us know. We would love to put one up there. We had one last week, a suggested poll. Okay. Headlines this week, I think, were relatively sparse again. We're still 4 months away from launch. We're getting closer. Like, this is feeling like we're approaching here. And they did a stream today, actually, today being the 29th of November. We're recording this around 5 p.m. Eastern time. The stream was basically just constructed. Sorry, that's ingrained in me. I have to say it. Constructed gameplay.
Yeah.
But they did it with like some big boy cards. And I think that is obviously going to better indicate what constructed gameplay is going to look like when you're throwing bombs down. And we even got some new bombs, which we'll get to. But so you guys took a little view of the stream a little bit there. Any initial impressions?
I mean, I think deck construction for this game is interesting to consider. And obviously, if you want to play it competitively, you're going to have to think about it a lot. There's different dynamics that we'll get into, with the conversation with that. But I think it's hard to really dive into the actual construction of set 1 decks until we see all of the cards. So, we have some indicators about what directions things might go. But again, like, we've only seen maybe a little over half of the cards, like slightly, maybe around 50% of the cards. So, which means 50% of the cards we haven't seen, So I'm not ready to jump in and be like, this is going to be an archetype, this is going to be a deck, this is going to be, I need to wait and see everything. But as far as the fundamentals of deck building, we can, and I have a feeling we will have a conversation about that.
I'm the other way. I think that there's very clearly some things that you can definitively say this will be a deck. And I say this with full confidence because I'm going to make that deck. And it might not be good, but I'm just going to play it because there's already some really fun stuff that we've got in the half that we have had revealed. But what I really enjoyed about the live stream today, more than anything, if I'm being honest, was that they took starter decks and then made slight modifications. And they said at the beginning that the idea was like, hey, if you pick up the starter decks and then you open a few boosters, this could be the sort of thing that you like modify into. And the fact that they're already thinking about that, not just as a design point, but in terms of like putting that kind of content out there, again, just reinforces what I keep saying, which is you can tell this game is being developed by card game players, because that is very routinely one of the things that comes up as requested content in card game communities. It's the, hey, I bought a starter deck. Where can I improve? What are some budget options, or what can I do with this card pool that I have? And this, again, 4 months before the game launches, is something that they're already giving us an example of. So to me, that's what I really appreciated.
Agreed. It was nice to see just gameplay, right? And I know there's a lot of people who are playing the game on various different digital platforms and putting up videos of gameplay, etc. It's just nice to see the game in the physical form and see how it's interacted and see how the board actually develops and evolves. Because I mean, we've all played so many card games where the cleanliness of the board and how neat and organized and tidy sometimes you can get away. Like, I've played Magic decks where, you know, at the end of it, it's like, okay, I got like 14 tokens on the board. Half of them have +1/+1 counters. It's a giant mess. Seeing how these games can kind of evolve, how quickly cards are trading into each other, what their sort of lifespan is in a particular game, how long it lives on the board. It's intriguing to me. And those are not finely tuned optimal decks. It's just like you said, Charmer, it's just sort of upgrades from the starter deck into cooler new things. But we did see in there things like Home One and the new Luke Skywalker card that we'll talk about in a bit. And yeah, so any other headlines? Anything else that kind of like creeped up? I don't think so, right?
Not really. Not that I can think of. Just more, you know, every day we get one day closer to the release of Star Wars Unlimited, and that's exciting. Yeah. You want to talk about Christmas? Thanksgiving?
So one thing, I don't know that it would be a headline, but they did say at the very end of the live stream that they were going to be posting on their website like an event list. You know, they mentioned PAX Unplugged coming up, and then they said that they're also going to be posting an event list where you could begin to play Star Wars Unlimited. So I don't know if this is going to be the rest of the events they're hitting before launch, or if it's going to be some sort of like road tour ahead of launch, because I know other card games, I'm thinking of like Battle Spirit Saga, for example, where they did a road tour at different game shops across the country where you could come and get like demo decks and things. I don't know what they mean when they say events, but that is kind of like a mini headline. So I would say just keep an eye out on the website, because any excuse to go play the game is going to be good in my mind. So that's kind of it for, I think, true headlines. But the other thing, and I think this is what Doe was saying before I so rudely cut him off, is that we are hitting the holidays. So I don't think we're going to get a ton of true headlines from here until like, you know, January. But once January hits, I feel like we're going to start getting a bunch of stuff again.
I have a feeling that beginning of February, we are going to have a very cool episode to show people that we will not say more of. So there you go.
Oh, wow. An announcement of an announcement.
That's what we're good at. This is esports, damn it. That's what we do.
It is now, I guess. Yeah.
It is now.
Are you kidding me? This is esports.
You'd like to announce that we will announce something very exciting at a later date. Yeah.
Okay. So headlines out of the way. Let's do the spoilers that have trickled through over the past week. Again, thank you very much to SwooDB for always having this stuff in great quality and at the ready. And we absolutely 100% piggyback off your hard work and then take some credit for it. So thank you for that.
But here's your shout out.
Bingo. So, hey, we were talking about hiding in a hole, you know, and farming. You know, it's a peaceful life. Charmer, would you like to hit us with our first spoiler to break down?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, I've been very transparent. Sabine is my favorite Star Wars character, but a very close second. And I would say the only reason that she is a second is because of how limited in terms of content we have for her is Jyn Erso. I think her character is very entertaining, and I just love and adore Rogue One. And so I was so excited when we got this leader card. It's Jyn Erso. It is heroism and cunning. The leader portion of the card says, exhaust as an action, your leader card, attack with a unit. The defender gets -1/-0 for this attack. The cost for the epic action is 6, and then she becomes a ground unit, has a 4/7 stat line, The 7 is very important for a couple of breakpoints. Rebel is the tag, and then while a friendly unit is attacking, the defender gets -1, -0. So actually a pretty big boost. It's any friendly unit gets the -1 when it's attacking into a defender. I really, really like this card personally. This is right up in terms of like my style of play, because I like to fight for control of the board with my units. Back when I covered the Elder Scrolls Legends, I played a deck that was called Mid-Range Sorcerer, and that was basically it. You set up value trades, so you get incremental advantage until eventually you've got a wide board that you have kind of overrun your opponent with. This is a leader that sets that up beautifully, and I also just adore that it's a common, because I'm a limited player, and this means that I will likely be drafting a lot of Jyn Urso in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a great limited card for sure. I mean, it's cunning, which we already know there's a lot of strong cunning stuff out there, so it's probably going to be fairly strong and limited. And the main strength of this card is that it messes with breakpoints, right? Where suddenly your card that would have attacked into an enemy and died, now you essentially double that card's power, because you're going to theoretically get 2 attacks worth, right? You're either going to attack once and then have something else attack it, so you're going to get to do your damage twice, or you're just going to straight up get to attack twice with it, over the course of a couple turns. So it's a card that in the right circumstances can end up being very strong. And I was a little bit taken aback by 6 resources for the flip, but as I sort of consider it, especially in its strength and limited, it feels more appropriate. She's got 7 health. You've got that kind of going forward too. That's a hard amount of health to take down quickly. So yeah, I think just a pretty solid card all around. I think it's going to be very strong and limited. And who knows? I mean, like, I think there's better cunning heroes out there, cunning leaders out there, I should say, in the first set that we've seen. But you might see people, building around this deck, in constructed possibly too. But yeah, certainly limited, which Charmer has me thinking about all the time now. Seems very, very strong, and just like an all-around, generally pretty good card, numbers-wise. So yeah, I like it.
It's good. I think it's all right. It's just that it's not really. It speaks to what I think cunning and heroism want to do, which is a lot of board control, like value trading and kind of stuff. It wants to put units on the board, and it wants to outmuscle and outperform the opponent's units. And I think that this game text here of everything gets -1 just means that your stuff has a little bit more survivability when it wants to trade. But again, this means that your Jyn Urso wants you to trade into other units. It wants you to maintain presence on the board at a better rate than your opponent does. And being within the cunning aspect, that there's going to be a lot of tricks up everybody's sleeve. This just happens to be a trick that is out in the open. It's this ambient effect of everything that gets attacked will get -1 attack value. But like, I learned a new phrase when I was in Barcelona and hanging out with the kayfabe guys, who are, a lot of them are Magic players. They said, Flake, you strike me as a Jund player. And they all kind of giggled and laughed, and I was like, that sounds like some like slander. And they said, well, we mean that's like you just want big things, and you want to just you want to 1-for-1 your opponent and eventually outvalue them down the road with bigger, badder things. It's like you just want to wear away at them, and it's just a boring game style. I said, okay, I guess I'm a Jund player. Like, I guess that's kind of what I want to do. This kind of feels Jundy to me in the sense that, and Jund, by the way, are 3 different colors together. I forgot what they were. I think it's like, is it like, let me double check.
It's green something.
Like green, white, red, maybe? Let's see. Jund, Magic. Let's go.
I'm a dirty commander only player for the moment. So
Jund had black.
Red, black, green. Yeah. There we go. Red, black, green. So there you go. So you have green to represent big, fat creatures. You've got black for instant destruction and red for burn. So it's basically, you play something, I'm going to 1-for-1 it and make sure it's not there. Eventually, you're going to have run out of something, or you're going to stumble, and then I'm going to put a big, fat green baddie on the board, or a red-green, like, Gruul-style trampler, and then beat you that way. That's kind of what Jund is. So I feel like Jyn Urso is the Jund leader.
Could be.
Kind of.
I mean, well, let's pose this question then, and say, what aspect would you pair this leader with? I think that's now when we have new leaders coming in that are revealed, I feel like we know enough to maybe like make that statement. So I'll go first. I would pair this with aggression. The reason being is that if I'm playing vigilance or something with this, if I'm generating shield tokens, I'm not really getting much value out of Jin Urso's ability anyway, because who cares if they're -1 or not if they're attacking into my shields. So, or if I'm attacking into them with a shield. So I would go aggression with this again, because that gives that little -1 might keep my aggressive, fragile creature or unit rather alive 1 turn longer. So I feel like playing this with aggression is going to get you more mileage out of your aggression stuff than you would have gotten otherwise. So for me, that's what I would go with. Who wants to go?
I concur. Full concur.
So
say the same thing.
I want to go then, because it's so funny. I have the exact opposite opinion.
I'm an aggro player, so that's where I go first.
So I'm actually glad you mentioned the aspect thing, because this is one of the things that I was trying to not go in depth, but since we have no emergency packs, I'm just going to run with it. When you're looking at this, really what you're comparing this against is the Han Solo leader, right? Because when you are choosing your leader, you're choosing the effect of the leader, but you're also choosing the aspects. And as we know, at least so far revealed, we have no heroism and we have no villainy bases. So that combined with the fact that we have these dual aspect key iconic cards for vigilance, cunning, etc., I don't think we're going to get heroism or villainy bases in set 1. And so if you are wanting to play double cunning, right, and heroism, your choices would be Jin Urso or Han. And then from that standpoint, you have to decide, okay, what is it that I want to do with my deck? Do I want to be more combo oriented? Choose Han. Do I want to be more control oriented? Choose Jin. But if you're pairing it with another aspect, right, if you're not trying to maximize and go double cunning, I actually think vigilance is the way to pair it because of the shields. Now, I can fully understand why somebody would say, hey, if I have a shield, why do I care if it's -1 anyway? But the answer to that is your opponent's most economical way to deal with your shields is usually by dealing 1 damage to a unit with shields. Now, there's 2 ways to do it. Direct damage, which you can't stop anyway, or smaller attack units, right? They want to give up the small units to get rid of the shield and then trade in. What Jin allows you to do is be on offense with your shielded unit, just crash into the small unit with the -1, eat it, and keep the shield. Now your opponent has to sacrifice something better to get rid of the shield potentially.
Not sold.
Making a lot of assumptions about 1 damage sources going
Not
through.
sold. Exactly. That is under the assumption like Doe's alluding to here, is that they're going to have a bunch of wieners on the board that you're gonna like
Weenies?
Weenies, yeah, sorry, wieners too.
Yeah.
You might have some wieners. But like the thing about it is that if you're wasting your action to attack the 1/1, then you don't get another swing, and they might have other ways to deal with your shield. I feel like if you've got a shielded unit and it's got a fat attack on it, you're not wasting the opportunity to attack. It's already your action, right? So swing into the big thing while you've got the shield going. I think that is the way to go. I like the aggression aspect here as well, because like Doe is saying, a lot of those aggro units are probably going to have lower health totals. So if you have an opportunity to value trade with a cheap high damage output unit and it sticks, now you're putting the onus on your opponent to waste an action to finish it off or leave it be, and it gets another swing. And I think that is what I initially thought of.
All right. So here's part 2 though. All right.
Oh, this
In the scenario that you are providing, right? There's a big unit and a small unit. Then yeah, you take care of the big unit, because now the small unit still has no threat of removing your unit once the shield is gone. But it then allows you, so many cases, what happens when you have shielded units, assuming that this is going to be designed similar to every other game, the trade-off for you getting the shield is that you have a smaller stat line overall, right? If a normal unit would be a 3/3, but you have shield, then you might be a 2/2 or something, for example, right? So if that's the case, once you lose the shield, all the value of your unit is gone, and Jin then helps to offset you having an understated unit as well. Like, her ability carries over even after you've already lost the shield. If you're trying to generate slow incremental board advantage, it's going to add up over the course of a game. So it goes in line with traditionally what you want to do. I'm just saying, if you're playing a cunning vigilance control deck with heroism and your choices are Jin or Han, I don't think it's going to be 100% slam dunk always choose Han, because one, Han is requiring you to cycle through your deck faster, so you won't be able to play I'll say the fatigue game, because we're a bunch of flesh and blood players here, but basically you won't be able to deck them. Mill will be off the table for you. And we know that's something that Vigilance sometimes wants to do, but also that means that you will want to have stuff that you're ramping into if you're playing the Han leader as well. You're going more tempo oriented or more combo oriented. I think Jin is better than she looks. That's what I will say. I think that it's very, I'm not saying she is the best leader by any stretch. I don't even think she's the best cunning leader. Right now, I think that's Thrawn. But I'm saying if you are paying, if you're paying tax for something and you're fine with it, you play Thrawn. But if you really want to play heroism and you want to play the more control oriented with Restore and whatever, I think Jin will still warrant a consideration over the rare leader Han.
There was this assumption that like we'd be attacking into big units with a Jin deck, where I'm like, nah, I'm not attacking into anything unless it has Sentinel and I have to, right? If I'm playing an aggro versus aggro matchup, then I might be doing some board trading if I can, and then I think Jin will help me get that board advantage in that matchup specifically. But if I'm playing against another bigger deck, I'm just going face. Then in that case, I'm like, well, Jin, isn't really helping me much at all here, but I'm aggro, so I don't care.
Well, and so that's where I would say, to me, if you're going to be playing aggro anyway, you would just play Han, because the resources are going to help you create additional tempo, right? That's what I keep coming back to. If you're pairing aggression and your goal is I want to be faster than my opponent, then the Han leader is going to be better, because you're just going to be playing more stuff per turn.
What if you don't have Han, but you want to be an aggressive player? Then I would go Jin aggro. It's not
then
Jin
I would say
Jin aggro.
Then I would say you can still play cunning, aggression, heroism, but you would choose Sabine, who is another common leader, so it would be very accessible and still have a better output. So like that's the other side of the coin, right? Is like, if you're talking about stuff you're pairing with, Sabine is aggression and heroism. So you could just take that and then play the cunning base and still have a better aggressive game plan. Jin is very specifically built for board control through units. Like that's all of her benefit. So if you're not trying to do that as like your deck's game plan, just don't play Jin. That just happens to be the play style I really enjoy in games like this.
I'll go back to my original statement then too, which is where I would play her in limited, but that's probably about it.
Yeah, this all comes back to the fact that none of us are probably playing her anyways.
Probably not. Yeah, not outside of limited. Like I said, I could see playing her in limited, and I would probably try it aggression because of my chosen play style. But yeah, if I was building a deck, she would not be my leader of choice. But I don't think she's really intended to be. So
next up. This is a card that you had a pretty significant reaction to, I believe, Doa.
Oh yeah, Outmaneuver. This is a bonkers strong card that I think will be seen, for many games over the years. It costs 3. Choose an arena, ground your space, exhaust each unit in that arena. So sure, you might be exhausting your own units, but it's such a great way to slow things down if you're getting overwhelmed in a certain unit, where it's like, if you are outgunned in a certain lane, you're like, well, I don't care if I, exhaust my own stuff, because I'm not going to be attacking into them because it's not going to be efficient for me. I'm just going to slow things down, stop everything. I'm not really, maybe I can't even attack past them. Maybe they have Sentinel and I can't deal with it. So I'm going to use this card to delay until I can get something big out that, takes care of the board late game. So I think this is going to be a crucial card in control decks, and just in general, it's strong. But especially if you're trying to play the slower game, if you're trying to get to your big stuff late game, this is going to be a core part of your component, I think.
This is a card I think that it's kind of your safety net if you are very devoted to one particular lane. It's like I'm not even going to worry about space, or I'm not even going to worry about the ground. I've got a very effective strategy here, but I'm eventually going to get outmaneuvered on the ground or in the space or vice versa. So I need a way to just basically, it's almost like a bait and switch to a degree, where your opponent, they might see that you're leaving a lane open, so they'll just like heavy dump in there in order to maintain presence and have a significant threat in a lane, and then you just outmaneuver them in that lane as your first action. You say, okay, I own the space, and let's go. And that's kind of how it goes. Like, their first order of business might be to drop another fat boy on the ground or in space, and you just reply with outmaneuver, and then you've got free runway to do whatever the hell you want. At the same time, like, I would probably play, if I was playing a balanced deck of space and ground, I would definitely carry one of these in my main deck, because you never know when you're just getting absolutely gooned on one particular lane. But if I'm very like heavy into one lane, if the nuts and bolts of my deck are just about owning space or owning the ground, this is a 3 of in every way, shape, or form, for sure. This is also a great limited card to pick up. But this is a card that takes patience and timing, because, and again, this goes back to just the sheer design of the game. Like, when do you play this for maximum effect? Because I feel like there's going to be a lot of times where you just have to pull the trigger on this. If you're late on it, you might get blown out. If you're early on it, they can recover. It's dangerous, but it's an incredibly powerful event for sure.
I think it's one of those things where it's like you don't want to be playing it on your like 3 resource turn.
No.
You know, you're going to be playing this like the mid game, you know, or where it's like, okay, I'm about to have like, 6-7 resources out or whatever. I just want to make sure I set up for a good next turn, and I don't want to take a bunch of damage this turn, and this might be useful even if it, exhausts one key unit. You really don't want to worry about that turn. You don't even need to be in like an overwhelming situation either. So it's got that versatility too, I think, and it's going to be a very good mid-game card.
Yeah, I was just about to say the power of this card is directly proportional to the stage of the game, in my opinion. The later it goes, the better it is. And what I love about this card is it's also kind of directly tied to initiative. Because there are situations where if you have initiative, then this could literally be a lifesaver. If your opponent's got 3 units that you have no way to interact with other than this and block in space, for example, then you just end your turn, take initiative, and then you can buy yourself time, right? Mm-hmm. Similarly, if you are playing a tall deck, if you're a Jund player and you've just played your giant green fatty, well, you take one action and then you end your turn. And then if your opponent's like, oh, well, since they, have ended their turn and they've taken initiative, I'm going to play 3 or 4 things in the other lane to try to race them. And then you're like, haha, gotcha. And you tap everything down and then you smack them in the face with your fatty. So this is very much a Flake card, but it's also, I think, just very well designed because it highlights everything good about the game. Initiative, the split lanes, the timing, we talk about the back and forth. Like, it's just a beautiful card.
Yeah.
Does a lot.
I'm going to love to play it. I'm going to hate to play against it, which is kind of cunning in a nutshell,
Yeah, that's essentially it. And I am all about this. Like, I think one of the questions in the mailbag is going to address this, so I won't get into it. We'll move on here to the next one. It is a unit. It is a vigilance unit, 3-drop, ground unit, single aspect vigilance, a 2/4 trooper. It is shielded. It is just a 2/4 statted trooper shielded unit. I think that this card is a pretty decent card. I think that this card is actually in trooper decks going to be pretty important. If vigilance is your jam as a 3-drop, the stat line can definitely get some work, but I think that vigilance also wants to upgrade their units. I think that if you're playing a trooper deck, you're always going to basically be better than the sum of your parts. And in this case, having a baked-in shield on a 2/4 unit means that you can trade with the small boys and then mess with the big boys as well. And yeah, this one is also revealed by Tower number 9. I think that this card in trooper decks is giving... this is, first of all, to me, a great limited card, a very, very, very good limited card. But I also think that in constructed trooper-related decks, this has an opportunity to see play.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If Trooper Tribal ever ends up being a thing, it seems like a good thing to put in there early on. Depending on what else we see, maybe there's better game text and some of the stuff that'll pop up in the future. But just numbers wise, it's good. 3 for a 2/4, and it's shielded, right? I mean, 3 for a 2/4 wouldn't be that great on its own, but the fact that you get kind of like a free pass at whatever first instance of damage it might take, it's decent. It's one of those cards that, like, we talk about this a lot, where it's like, is this a set one card? Meaning that, is this a card that's going to make its way into constructed decks until something better comes along in a future set? And like, I feel like this is a decent candidate for that, right? Where it's like, it's on the edge, where I feel like maybe we're gonna see some things that are gonna push it into kind of a just limited, usage, but it could also be good enough that it might be a good just early game unit to throw in there to just sort of like sustain some board presence for a bit. So yeah, I think it's just a decent little card.
The thing that jumps out to me the most is that it's single aspect. So as Doa was saying, in set one, I think this could make a couple of lists, even if it's just like as a 1 or a 2 of, because one of the things when you're building a deck, which of course is something we're talking about, is you want to make sure you've got a decent enough curve and you want to survive the early game. And if we don't have enough, quality defensive options in set one, then this might make the cut just because it's single aspect. So you can put it into a bunch of decks and then still play it without having to worry about the rest of your deck construction. I do think it'll be power crept out eventually, but this is like on the border for me. It's strong and limited for sure, but I kind of need to see more of the set before I decide if I'm playing it in constructed.
Yeah.
I'll take the next one. I'll give you guys the cool ones after this. It's another release or reveal by Tower Number 9. It's the Partisan Insurgent. It's a 2-drop single aspect aggression, a 1/4 Trooper Rebel. We've got a Rebel. And the text says, while you control another aggression unit, this unit gains raid 2, meaning that it gets +2/+0 while attacking. So when it attacks, it's a 3/4 for a 2-drop, which is highly above rate. Even as a 2-drop 1/4, I think you're getting basically your money's worth in that regard. But it does have the condition of needing to spot another aggression unit. But the way that I see this is that if you're playing aggression and you're attacking a lot and you want the benefit of a raid unit, you're probably having stuff to drop on ahead of it anyways. I think that you're going to have a bunch of little weenies on the board all the time, and this is just going to benefit from it. Again, greater than the sum of your parts is kind of what these synergistic, these tribal aggression trooper-esque lists are all about. But anything scratching beyond the surface for this one?
I think the obvious thing to think about is consistency, right? Like how consistent is it going to be that you'll be able to get another aggression unit out there and then, put this into use? Because, right, first you need to play this, then you need to have the aggression unit, then you need the other aggression unit to be alive, then you need to attack with this in a back and forth action game. That seems like it might be a tough thing to have happen consistently rather. But that said, I like any card in a card game that can sort of direct your opponent's attention. And if you play this card, depending on the board state, and early on in the game when you are going to be hopefully playing this card, I think it will have this impact where now whatever other aggression unit you put out the next turn, say, is going to get a lot of attention from your opponent because they don't want you to be able to get raid 2 with your Partisan Insurgents. So you can use this card along with another aggression card to sort of direct the attention of your opponent to a certain degree. So I like that aspect of it, that you can kind of do some smart things probably with that. But I do worry about the consistency. How often are you actually going to be able to get the raid benefit? And if you're not, it's okay, but I'm sure there's better options to put in your deck. So maybe another limited thing, but I like the idea of the card anyway.
So I kind of love the misdirection of this card because it's a rebel trooper, but I think that at least with what's been revealed so far, it pairs best with the Inquisitor leader. The 4 health means that if you turn 1, you play the other aggression units, right? And then on your second turn, you play this, comes into play exhausted, but because of that 4 health, that would let this survive the whack, right? You can deal 2 damage to it, ready it, and then swing and get that raid +2. Like that's, I think, where you would maybe get value. And again, much like the previous card, the other thing that jumps out is it's just aggression, right? So set 1, this very well could also be a solid filler card that you play if you have nothing better to do. A lot of times you might end up just resourcing this. The fact that you can resource any card also means that sometimes you're picking things for just consistency of curve, and this might fit the bill in the first set.
Next one. Who wants to fight over this beautician?
There's no fight. I'm going to let Doa do it.
Oh, okay. Sure. I'll do it. Yeah, I wasn't going to fight over it either, but if you want me to, I will. It's Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight. Yes, that's right. He's here in card form. He is not the leader form. He is a unit now. He is a heroism vigilance unit that you pay 7 resources for, but he's a 6/7 Force Jedi Rebel with Restore 3. It's a lot of health back on your base when you attack, and when played, give an enemy unit -3/-3 for the phase. If a friendly unit was defeated this phase, give that enemy unit -6/-6 for this phase instead. So I look at this and I'm like, oh, that's actually some pretty nice single target late game removal for Vigilance Heroism, because if a unit is reduced to 0 defense, it is dead. So -3/-3, that can get rid of some stuff that's maybe already injured. If one of your units dies, which it's usually pretty easy, I would imagine, to, create that circumstance, then you're going to be able to bring in Luke and -6/-6 something, take out something a little bit more significant, including, a lot of lightly damaged leaders would qualify for the attention of this card and get a pretty big benefit from it. That's a pretty big tempo swing to play a 6/7 and theoretically remove something up to a 6/6 on the other side. So yeah, I mean, it's a legendary, so you expect it to be very powerful. I think it is very powerful. The Restore 3 is great. And it's got a lot of tags to play with other cards, other deck construction. So yeah, I like that they're going hard with the Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight card. I mean, it fulfills the fantasy of playing Luke at his most powerful. So I like it. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I really like this card. This is it's just like the quintessential late game control card. It helps you stabilize the board with the --, which eats right through shields as well. It hits any unit, so as Doa said, can hit leaders. It helps you stabilize your health total on your base with the Restore. But I also really like it because between this and Yoda and Obi-Wan, I appreciate the interplay and the themes of when another unit dies or when this unit dies, right? So we've got Yoda, who is kind of being the mentor with his card. We have same thing with Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan dies, he grants experience to another unit, and if it's a Force unit, you draw a card. And then here, it's like the other side of the spectrum where you are avenging something, right? Like in my mind, this is, Han got captured and I'm showing up and I'm avenging him. So take the -6/-6 or something like that. And I really appreciate it. I do also think that Doa is correct in specifically heroism and vigilance. Creating situations where one of your units has died will be pretty easy, because I think you'll be relatively heavy Sentinel likely in these aspects. Or if it's not Sentinel, it'll be other units your opponent wants to get rid of because they might have Restore. So again, like the low cost Yoda, for example, we want Yoda to die because he's got cool triggers, but also late game, he'll set you up for Luke, which will be a big tempo swing. Like this is just a really powerful card.
We want Yoda to die. Said by one Darick Oswalt. Thank you, Darick.
He does anyway.
Yeah, well, he does anyways. I mean, when 900 years old you are, look as good you will not.
Listen, I was just about to say Yoda wanted to die so much that he just did it. He was like, I'm so tired of you talking, Luke.
That's right. Oh, yeah, Vader's your dad. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, it's like,
go.
Do you remember that episode of Seinfeld where George fakes his own death and and then Jerry gets a call from Frank Costanza, and the voicemail is literally, "Hi Jerry, it's Frank. George is dead. Mr. Steinbrenner's here. George is dead. Call me back." And just it's just like that's just kind of how it it struck me. But yeah, this card is reminiscent to me of the old school LSJK, the one from Star Wars CCG, because of just how potent it was. That dude was an absolute house. It was, like you mentioned, in the cinematic universe at the point, it was Luke at his strongest, right? He had, it's him confronting Vader amidst the influence of the Emperor. He does not get more badass than he was in that particular point. I don't care how many milk nipples he's squeezing on Acto. That is him at his most badass. Okay.
Did anyone else say he's at his most badass when he's drinking the milk?
Did you see the look he gives? Did you see the look he gives? He drinks it. He's like, yeah. Like,
I was just going to say, I feel like he's got like old sailor, just hard vibes. Like he's a dude. I know he's been living in exile at that point, but he's a dude that if you met him on the street, you'd be like, that guy did time. You know,
for sure, for sure. I want some gigantic ostrich Muppet milk, and I want it right from the teat. That is basically it. And if you want it, baby, you go get it, because Luke made his home there. But this card is unreal good, and obviously it's a legendary. You need it to be good. I think that just the fact that your opponent might suspect it's coming, and they're like, well, I don't want to kill the unit because I don't want to get 6-6'd, but eventually Luke's gonna be like, cool, don't do it, I'll just 3-3 you, and now you can't kill anything because your biggest threat is smaller, and now I got a Luke on the table. I'm really looking forward to seeing. We've seen a lot of legendaries that are events, obviously, like the aspect related ones, but the units that we're getting feel impactful. They feel legendary, and that's what I really want from this game. I want there to be impactful plays because, having played Magic so much in the past few months, you eventually get to a point where there's like kind of like the stalemate board state where I can't attack you, and it's like it doesn't make sense for either of us to attack into each other, so it's just drawing until you find the bomb or the way to sort of clear a unit, or you find your trick. Luke Skywalker is that trick. He is just like, hey, I'm going to have an impact when I hit the board. I'm going to have an impact when I swing. I'm going to just change the dynamic of the game. And I really, really love this. And again, the Jund in me is just seeing this and saying, big guy go boom. I love it.
Pretty great.
All right. Charmer. Next one.
Oh, you want me to do the next one? All right.
Do it.
So you can't have Luke without a lightsaber. Now, granted, this is not Luke's lightsaber. This is Jedi lightsaber, but this card is still really, really good. And I feel like it was revealed once before.
It was leaked
on Twitter. Yeah,
somebody caught an angle of it, and it was like a French version, I think.
Yeah. But this is a 3-cost heroism vigilance upgrade card you attach to a non-vehicle unit. So sorry, TIE fighters, you can't equip lightsabers. If attached unit is a force unit, it gains on attack, give the defender -2/-2 for this phase. And then on top of that, it gives +3/+3, and it has the tags, item, weapon, and lightsaber. So 3 for a +3/+3 with a very relevant on attack if the unit is force feels very, very good. In the early game, putting this on Yoda actually feels very strong to me because of his restore. So on attack, you're restoring health, getting rid of a unit, and threatening a ton of damage. It's going to be a great 1-2 combo, but even again on like Kanan or something else, very, very strong.
I was going to bring up the Yoda thing, but yeah, I don't have a lot more to add. I mean, it's just a good card. It's 3 for 3/3. Hit the stat line, and you get this extra bonus on force units. So yeah, it's just good.
I wonder if there's going to be a force-oriented like Vigilant Space deck, and in which case you just jam 3 Jedi lightsabers in there and go to town. The exchange rate on this, it's like you jam this on a force user, and it's like a +5/+5, right? Like on paper, a dual aspect 3-drop that gives +3/+3 is kind of meh. I don't know if I'd rather have a unit on the board for 3-drop at that rate. But again, like if your stuff, like I'm curious to see how many force wielders there are going to be to pair this up with We shall see.
I mean, at some point, I would hope we've got, all the Jedis, so you could just play a deck filled with a bunch of Jedis or Force Users. That would be fun.
Except for those useless ones that went to go arrest Palpatine. Again, I will never get over how...
Be the early game fodder.
Well, sure, that's fine. No problem. Give me a 2-drop Jedi that is as useless as those...
Sorry, Kit Fisto.
At least Kit Fisto had he swung his lightsaber and parried once or twice. The other two were literally just like they were just there to be a sleeve for Palpatine's lightsaber. That's all it was. All right. Last one.
All right. We're going to the instant replay.
Are you looking at it? We'll
see how Kit Fisto does. Hold on. Hold on. So it's treason then. All right, hold up. Wait.
Yeah.
All right, he swings in. He immediately stabs the one dude with darker. Then he kills the other guy with the horns. He does. Oh, okay. All right. Kit Fisto. Oh, Kit Fisto is pretty good. Kit Fisto gets 3 parries off. He parries the Emperor 3 times and actually fights pretty well with Mace Windu
Mace Windu.
That's what he went out of.
Yeah.
Mace Windu before he gets cut down. So hey, I retract my earlier statement. Kit Fisto makes a good representation of himself against the Emperor. So
yeah, but those other two.
Rest in peace, Mr. Fisto.
The other 2 pretenders were literally just there because they were like, yeah, well, they're probably Mace Windu's like, hey, you want to come with me? He's like,
Emperor's like this, and the guy's like, oh,
yeah.
And the other guy's like,
they had no clue. They were probably there, like they had just come from Galaxy's Edge and just bought a fake lightsaber and a robe, and they're like, dude, Mace Windu just asked us to come with him for an important mission. Let's go. Immediately skewered.
The worst Disneyland ride ever, really.
Almost as bad as that hotel that they put. At the end of the day, okay, they did their best, and we got to give them credit because they showed up, and that's half the battle. The other half is parrying a lightsaber, which they did not.
The other half is knowing.
Well, they did not know.
They didn't know.
They definitely didn't know.
They knew that he was the Dark Lord of the Sith. They
knew then. They probably brought those 2 bozos because they're like, well, Anakin's probably wrong.
Yeah, I know what happened. I admit, I probably would have been one of the ones that got cut down immediately because nobody, everyone might expect the Emperor Palpatine to be like, oh, you caught me. Oh, now I will destroy you. But nobody expected the Emperor Palpatine barrel roll.
Yeah.
When he was just like, whoa, and he just does a barrel roll right into them. Nobody expects that move right out of the gate. So I understand.
I would have died even sooner because I'll be honest, if you think that there's just not Sith around and then somebody shows up and they're like, hey, we're going to go arrest this dude because he is the Dark Lord of the Sith. And we're like, we don't even know if that exists anymore. Okay, I guess I'll come along. I'll watch this train wreck. And then you end up being the train wreck, unfortunately. But that would be me 100%.
It's every government has an alien response plan. But when it happens, I don't think they're like, yeah, standard drills. Okay, gotcha. Yep, taking notes for sure. I'm going to commit this to memory. And then they're like, oh my God, it's happening. I don't know what to do. I do not know.
Alien does a leaping barrel roll over the desk at you.
Yeah,
what are you going to do?
I'm not going to do anything.
Wow, I'm impressed. I thought this was kind of like an older guy, but he's very spry for his age.
He absolutely corkscrew messed up those 2. Right, and it was a full-on Slippy get back here moment because
he took Star Fox seriously.
Yeah, he definitely did. The last dude is the Battlefield Marine. It is a heroism command unit, a 2-drop ground unit, Rebel Trooper 3/3 Vanilla, and that's basically it. It's a 2-drop 3/3 dual aspect Rebel Trooper. Now, this might look garbo, but if you're within these aspects, dropping a 3/3 on turn for 2 is above rate. That is pretty strong. I don't think you need text on this. I think it's just a matter of, hey, here's some stats and deal with it.
Yeah, he's definitely far from garbage. He is quite good. I mean, again, we talked about the someday trooper deck. Well, here's one of your great early game troopers. A 3/3 for 2 is going to be annoying to deal with no matter what the opponent has in their deck. So yeah, I think it's just and every card game needs these cards, right? You just need the vanilla 1 for 2/2 or 2 for 3/3, you know, that kind of thing to pop up every once in a while, because it's always going to be good in aggressive decks. And honestly, it's probably not bad just for delaying in you know, slower decks too. So I love seeing these archetypes kind of pop up. This kind of card is in every card game, and I think it's necessary. You know, you always want to have the big beat stick, right? Without any text at all. Just give me some numbers, make it cheap, and it'll be good.
So we've excuse me, wow, we've only seen about half the set so far, but just kind of peering through all of the other 2 and 1 drops. Right? Because ideally, that's what you're kind of comparing it to. What am I likely going to see across the table for me on turn 1 when you've got your 2 resources? This either directly trades with or trades with and survives like 80% of them, right? It's going to directly trade with cards like Viper Probe Droid. There's a very few that have 3 attack, but most of these are like Rebel Pathfinder. It's a 2/3, but it has Saboteur, or the Snowtrooper Lieutenants, or Leia, the Partisan Insurgent. It doesn't trade with directly, but it's still going to attack into that and survive, get it pretty low. Stat-wise, this is just a very versatile unit. So it makes sense to me that it's got no direct text on it, but also the fact that it's a Rebel and a Trooper could be very relevant later on.
All right.
My one thing with this real quick is like, make up your mind. Which barrel of the gun are you using? Is this because there's like 2 different barrels with 2 different sizes, but they're kind of making the similar blast? You know, I feel like there's something with that gun that needs to be changed to make it look a little bit more efficient. Does it need to shoot 2 shots? Can't it just shoot 1 more accurately? I don't know.
So this character is an Aqualish, I believe, is the species of this character, an Aqualish.
You are correct. That's right.
What I first noticed was this mofo has a harpoon on his back. He's got a freaking harpoon because when he's done laying waste, he's going to go with his buddy, you know who, the Sullustan slaughterhouse that we know, and he's going to go and they're going to go spearfishing together. That's what they're going to do.
I mean, you got to do that.
I think yeah.
Go ahead.
He can breathe underwater, you know.
Hold up. I spoke too soon. I'm pretty sure it's a weak way.
Is that a weak way?
Not an Aqualish, because like Ponda Baba was the Aqualish.
Oh, and he's got like those. He's got like the baboon ass cheeks.
It's not a weak way.
No, weak way is the skiff guard, like the one who pokes.
What is that dude?
I think it's not an Aqualish. It's one of those dudes that are like Mon Calamari-ish. Damn, like these are very prevalent species. I
know. I could have sworn. Hold on.
Just look at aquatic species Star Wars.
I'm looking at it. Yeah, that's. We can't go any farther in the podcast until we figure this out. This is very embarrassing.
Well, it's not a Gungan. We know that.
It is Quarren.
Quarren.
That's what it is. Quarren.
Thank you. It is Quarren. Yes, it is absolutely.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, because the problem is if you Google things like aquatic species or fish species, everything comes up the Mon Calamari first, like rightfully so, because that's what everyone's trying to remember. So I went with the tried and true squid head, and that got me the answer.
Thank you. Yeah. Wow. Why don't we just drop some really bad slurs like that? That is a really racist term to them. You know that? How dare you?
I mean,
well, you know, if he wants my respect, he can fire with 1 barrel.
That is true. You're right. Yeah. Come back to reality there, squid head.
Actually, no, Flake is right. In the wiki, it does say also known by the derogatory name Squidhead. So it is derogatory.
Oh, well, somebody attended Wampa Radio sensitivity training and somebody didn't.
I expect your official apology statement to be released at a later date. Charmer.
Yeah, Charmer, you don't want to be the Kanye West of Star Wars.
Oh, no.
You know what? I mean, I'm just gonna double down because I'm protected by an ardent sympathizer. So if Battlefield
no,
Marine,
they're friends, man. They're friends.
If Battlefield Marine wants to find me, he can go through my colleague, ardent sympathizer.
Did you know they can spit ink out of their mouths? I mean, that's kind of asking to be called squid head. If your head looks like a squid and you actually spit ink.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean,
like, yeah. I don't want to get into it. Hey, how about you out there? Is squid head a derogatory term? Leave it in the comments.
This is why we need emergency
how
text.
How do people in Star Wars even know what squids are? Do squids even exist?
Birds
in Star
exist.
Wars?
This is so. I actually had this kind of come to Jesus moment about this kind of thing when watching Pokemon, because I was watching an episode of Pokemon. They were underwater, like in a submarine, and they look out the window, and one of them says, "Wow, look at all the fish." I was like, "There's fish there?" I thought everything was Pokemon. Like I thought it was just human beings.
There's fish type, kind of.
No,
Magikarp is a fish type.
I
Pokemon.
guess, but it wasn't like they weren't Pokemon. They were just dumbass fish, like the furniture of the sea. That's all they were.
There does seem to be something in the Pokemon world where there are animals and then there are Pokemon that are kind of between animals and more, higher beings like human beings, right? But
That's
yet
very
Pokemon
elitist of
seem
you.
Very sentient. Well, yeah, but I mean, like, I'm just playing by their rules. Like, they have established that humans are above Pokemon.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I want to live in
I'm not
Flake's
saying it's
universe. I want to live in Flake's universe where any random tuna can become a Gyarados.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like imagine that. Like
Maybe it's
you reel up a tuna, it accidentally smacks you in the side of the head while it's flopping around. That gives it enough XP to like turn into Gyarados. Like that's pretty sweet. But at the same
I
time,
just want to see you reel up a tuna. Do you know how big that?
no, they're
fish
huge. Yeah, I
is?
know. But like
he's ripped, yeah.
you can wheel in a tuna and like you are paid for the year. Like that, some of those tunas, like those bluefin tunas, are like some of them go for unreal amounts of money. But
I'm
again,
calling shenanigans on the squid head thing though. That doesn't even sound like something from Star Wars. I mean, it doesn't even sound like something that should be in the Star Wars.
yeah, you're right. It
because
shouldn't be in
squids-
the vernacular, Doa, because it's a racist term. So
No, because squids just aren't in Star Wars. It doesn't make any sense.
well, they there was another one that they hammerheads. Like, but I guess a hammer is a thing.
Yeah, their heads still kind of look like hammers.
I suppose.
Whereas you can't reference a squid because that's the actual name of an earth animal.
On the
so.
actual StarWars.com, it says Corrin, or squid heads, as they are sometimes rudely called.
Rudely.
That
So
doesn't make
this
any
really
sense.
is.
There are no
this
squids
really
in Star
is.
Wars.
You don't know that.
Man.
You
I
don't
really
know
just
that.
stopped in a slurge, all because I was trying to Google the species for you. You
Yeah,
got
and you
me in
used
trouble, Flake.
and you
Oh,
used
you're
a
the one who
derogatory
said it.
term to look it up. You're the worst charmer. Absolutely the
Well,
worst.
to all our Corrin viewers out there,
I'm sorry.
Charmer's very sorry.
I formally apologize to the entire Corrin species.
Okay.
I did not know.
This is the biggest scandal we've ever had on the podcast.
They have suction cup tipped fingers.
Count yourself lucky if this is the biggest thing. All right, so here's the deal: is because we're coming up against it clockwise. We have two options. Option one is we plow through some of these questions that have been piling up for the mailbag. We can do next episode. We can talk about deck construction and really try to keep it on the rails, because we literally spent 10 minutes talking about if calling a Quarren a squid face would get you shanked in prison.
head.
Yeah, well, if it would get you shanked in
Get it
prison.
right.
So. Should we just clear out the mailbag?
I mean, we could do a couple of them at least.
Yeah, let's do a few here. So I'm gonna very kindly propose this to you as we do the transition, my friend Charmer, which is basically, hey, you just arrive in prison and everyone you called a squid head is now in your cell block.
I have a bad feeling about this.
I've got a bad feeling about it.
Quiet.
What?
Very bad feeling about this.
I got a bad feeling about this.
I don't know. I have a bad feeling about this.
Perfect. Fitting. Great. Let's get to the mailbag, my friends. Again, the Bad Feeling mailbag is brought to you by you. You guys send us questions. We got a bunch, and we're going to get through as many as we can here. We've got about 10 minutes. So, Doa, pick and choose. Fire away.
I get to pick.
Oh, yeah.
Let me see. We'll just go. We'll just go with the. I want to go with the second one.
Yeah, go for it.
This might take up the rest of our time though. In a recent interview, Dave Filoni talked about from Board Play J. In a recent interview, Dave Filoni talked about using material from the Star Wars Legends storyline. Would you like to see characters from the Knights of the Old Republic comic book series in the game? Which ones? with Dave Filoni now in charge of Star Wars, what do you hope for? I'm first of all, I'm excited about him being in charge with Star Wars. Like when he is the showrunner, I do feel like we get a little bit too many filler episodes here and there. But there's no doubt that I think his vision for Star Wars overall is the one that most closely aligns with what me and a lot of other fans would like to see the universe be, right? So I think it's very exciting that he's in charge of that, first of all. But to answer the question, I mean, as far as card game purposes go, I'd like to see all of it eventually, right? Because this game clearly isn't super concerned about timelines. It's not concerned about having like just because it seems like because we got a chance for Mace Windu again. Why do I keep saying that? Mace Windu, Mace Windu, defenestration on the mind. Mace Windu with Jedi Luke at the same time. Like, so clearly timelines aren't super important to this game. So why not do something with like Knights of the Old Republic down the line? I'd love to see it. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff there. HK-37, Darth Revan, like there's a lot of awesome stuff you could bring into the game with that. So yeah, I'd love to see it. The more the merrier, I say. Yeah.
What a pain that window is.
Oh.
Calling him Mace Windu is basically calling him a squid head. I'm just throwing that out there.
It's just his most memorable moment is flying out that window.
I'll basically say this regarding Star Wars Legends in general, because I want to see it all, but I want to see it at the right time. I don't want to see a character show up for the sake of shock value, kind of like Cad Bane did. Like, Cad Bane could have not been in Book of Boba Fett, and I don't think it would have changed the story that much, but it was a great introduction to the character. If he had if he was pulling a lot more strings and had a more integral part to the plot, that is fine. What I don't like is that kind of fan service for the sake of fan service. Like, to a certain degree, it's okay. Like in, I think it was The Mandalorian, where we saw, remember we saw like a brief glimpse of Zeb. Zeb was in like the ready room of one. Like, that's cool.
Sure.
Because that's a short little piece where they're not trying to put a lot more onus on him driving any narratives. It's just, hey, he's there. We're aware of him. Here's a little treat for you. That's where I want to see Legends show up, not for a throwaway cameo to kind of spike ratings or something to that degree.
Well, Cad Bane was like one of the major villains in like an arc in Clone Wars, if I remember
Yes,
right too. So
absolutely.
It was kind of unfortunate to see him, and they did such a great job with the costuming for that character in the show too. He looked great.
God,
I was like,
so good.
He translated to live action so good, and then they killed him.
He was like, allegedly.
Oh, come on! Like we could have
allegedly
used a lot more.
Anytime the camera lingers on the body and sort of like zooms in slow on them, they're not dead, dude. They're not dead. They're not dead. But
yes, they are.
My fast answer to this is, in terms of content, I would love to see more Legends stuff revisited in the greater Star Wars universe, but I would love to see stuff from the Old Republic time period. Like, I want them to kind of get away from what we kind of consider the core era of Star Wars, because we have enough ongoing content there, and then just give us some new, or revisit some of the old, but give us something new and kind of refreshing that we can just get excited from scratch, so that we don't have to, I guess, be as judgmental. And there's a lot of good eras to choose from, and like, I'll be honest, like, I loved a lot of the stories when I played through Knights of the Old Republic. I loved a lot of the stories when I played through Star Wars The Old Republic. I loved that MMO. So give me some of that, and then once that's out in the wild, if you will, then absolutely jam it in the game.
You want to choose one?
Actually, the MMO, I'm glad you brought that up. Like, there is so much awesome stuff in that. If you haven't played it, go back and just play through the game as if you're playing it through a single player RPG. You can, and it's worth it, because it's just a very good, BioWare, right? They made it. BioWare.
Yeah, it was a BioWare MMO, and
it feels like a great single player MMO set in the Star Wars universe that had some multiplayer stuff tacked onto it later. That's really what that game feels like. But it is absolutely worth playing for the story, because it's fantastic. I love to see some Final Empire stuff come into the card game eventually. Like, that was cool. I don't know if you played far enough to get that expansion, but it was neat.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say, I'm probably going to catch heat from this from anybody who did play the MMO, but I unabashedly loved Hutball. And so give me Hutball somehow in the card game.
I mean, the PvP in that game was, a little bit suspect.
Listen, there's a lot of very valid criticisms, but I'm one of the weirdos that actually loved Hutball.
I played a Marauder, so I played a lot of Hutball because I could just go in there and brawl and stuff. Like I felt like I could do okay, but
I was a juggernaut, so being able to like grab the ball and then leap to a friend and then leap to an enemy and then charge across the line, like nothing made me feel more unstoppable.
It was fun. It was kind of fun. Yeah.
I'm gonna take
no idea what we're talking.
Not a clue. Not a clue. You guys say Hutball, I'm like cool, amazing. I'm number one in the world Hutball fan right here. It's like cricket. It's like cool. I know it's popular.
It's like Blitzball. No, it's not like
Griffball from Halo. Maybe. I don't know. So I'm gonna go with D House at Wild Wormhole. It's a 3-pack, so we can cruise through these. Oh. Of the current revealed leaders, which one are you reaching for first when starting deck building? It's Thrawn. It's 100% Thrawn. Thrawn is my guy. I love the character. I love the mechanic. And I love what it could potentially do to my opponent, which is give them a freaking ulcer. That's what it's about.
I need to go back and look at the all the leaders. See. So go ahead, Charmer.
This is very difficult.
It is.
My instinct is as weird as it sounds, and not just because she was revealed, but it's honestly probably Jin, just because before she was even revealed, felt like I wanted to play Heroism, Cunning, Vigilance as a deck, and of the existing Heroism, Vigilance leaders, I wasn't like a big fan of them, and I don't think Han lets you play the late game Mills strategy. He seems more tempo oriented, so it's kind of Jin by default. It just so happens that I also like the character, and I think that the card is better than it looks on the surface, but really it's about the aspect combination.
Beauty.
All right. I'm gonna pick Hera. Because we haven't obviously seen, everything Spectre related revealed yet at this point. We're still missing Zeb, right? So there's gotta be more to this, but I just like the idea of building a deck around all the Spectre characters, being able to use a bunch of different aspects, right? Because she lets you ignore the aspect penalty on Spectre cards. So that's exciting. So I just like the idea of that deck, building that deck. Otherwise, I kind of like Leia Organa actually too. Just be able to do multiple attacks in one action. I think that unlocks a lot of unique sort of like lines of play. So those are the two that are just tertiary looking through these. Those are the two that I'm kind of most excited about at the moment.
Speaking of Spectre, we haven't seen Chopper yet either, right?
No.
I don't believe so. No.
I would remember if we got the War Criminal, I feel like.
Yeah. You know where he's at? He's on the line with our Lothal Insurgent.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever that dude's name is.
The Ardent supporter?
Ardent sympathizer?
Yeah, oh boy.
Sympathizer, yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah. All right, last bit of the question, because it's actually a 3-parter, but we're going to skip to part 3 because we're out of time here. In 10 seconds or less, boys, how many Tauntauns would it take to bring down a single Wampa?
3.
I'm going to guess 5.
I was going closer.
A few more.
I'm closer with Doa on this one. I think 3. It's like the first one gets immediately slaughtered, and then I don't think a 2-on-1 is worth it. You got to go with I'm thinking 6. You gotta have like 1 per limb, and then 2 biting the face.
Oh, see, I assumed it was Wampa's eating 1, and the other 2 start headbutting from the sides, right? Using the horns, and then you just knock them out.
You need sort of a sequence of headbutts, though.
Well, sure.
To really make it.
I mean,
work.
The question is: are Tauntauns as smart as Velociraptors or as dumb as Tauntauns? Right?
They're dumb as Tauntauns, dude.
Okay, well then it's going to take 11.
Because 3 got lost on the way.
Tauntauns? Yeah.
Yeah. 1 died of starvation because it doesn't know how to eat. It forgot. It's just All right. There we go. We did get some more questions in from Virgin Games as well as Andy Salkeld, so we're sorry that we couldn't get to those. We couldn't get to a lot, but we're up against it, so we want to thank everybody again for tuning in to Wampa Radio. and putting up with us. There's going to be a lot more cool stuff around the bend. Like I said, first week of February-ish, we should have something really special for you guys. And beyond that, that's about it. You can follow me on Twitter at WatchFlake. Follow the channel, obviously, at Wampa Radio on Twitter. We've got at GGDOA if you want to get in touch.
That's me.
At ThatCharm3R. And if you have a question for the mailbag, hit us up. You can email us at wamparadiopodcast@gmail.com. We love it. We love it. We love it. And sometimes if you email us and you sound like a cool dude, I send you a pack of cards just like that. Just like that. So take a gamble. Who knows? Charmer, hit us, baby.
I'm sorry to the Quarren people, and may the Force be with you.